When my dad passed away, I thought the hardest part would be saying goodbye. But it turns out, the hardest part was finding out how little I apparently meant to him. Or at least, that's what I believed at first. My name's Ethan, and I'm 29 years old. I have an older brother, Tyler, who's 34, and growing up, we were close. At least until life, jealousy, and my father's expectations drove us apart. Dad was a hard man. He wasn't cruel, but he had this tough-love attitude about everything. He was a self-made mechanic who started with nothing and built his own auto shop from the ground up. Our whole childhood smelled like gasoline and motor oil. Tyler was the golden child, confident, athletic, and the one who always worked alongside Dad in the shop. Me? I was the dreamer. I went to college, studied business, and moved out of town. Dad never really understood why I didn't want to use my hands like him and Tyler did. We argued a lot about that. When Dad got sick, I tried to visit as often as I could, but Tyler was always there, taking care of him, managing the shop, and honestly doing everything I couldn't. I respected that. I thought maybe we could rebuild our bond as a family before it was too late. But the truth is, Dad never really opened up to me near the end. Our conversations were short, awkward. I told myself it was the illness talking. Now I'm not so sure. At the funeral, everything felt like a blur. People came up to us, telling stories about Dad, how he'd fixed their car for free, how he'd helped them when they were struggling. I felt proud, even if I always felt like an outsider in his world. When it came time to read the will, I didn't expect anything major. Maybe a little inheritance, maybe part of the shop. I wasn't greedy, but nothing could have prepared me for what actually happened. Dad left everything, the business, the house, the savings, even his tools, to Tyler. And me? I got his old 1998 Ford F-150 pickup truck. That's it, an old rusted truck that barely ran. My heart sank when the lawyer read it aloud. Tyler just sat there silently, avoiding eye contact. Everyone in the room glanced at me, waiting for some kind of reaction. But I didn't say anything. I just nodded, signed the papers, and left. I spent days trying to convince myself it didn't matter. That Dad had his reasons. That maybe he thought I didn't need anything. But deep down, it felt like betrayal. I'd spent my whole life trying to make him proud, and even in death, I was the afterthought. A week later, I went to pick up the truck from the shop. It was covered in dust, but when I opened the door, that familiar scent of motor oil and old leather hit me. For a second, it felt like Dad was there. I sat in the driver's seat, hands on the wheel, and memories started flooding back. Him teaching me to drive, yelling at me for stalling, then laughing when I finally got it right. I turned the key. The engine coughed and sputtered but came to life. That sound almost made me tear up. As I was driving home, I noticed the GPS mounted on the dashboard. It wasn't new, but it wasn't ancient either. Out of habit, I pressed home on it. The address that popped up wasn't the house I grew up in. It was somewhere about 50 miles away, in a small rural town I'd never heard of. My curiosity got the best of me. I figured maybe it was an old repair job, or a friend's house he used to visit. But something inside me whispered that it was more than that. The next weekend, I decided to check it out. I told myself it was just for closure. Maybe I'd find a part of Dad's past I never knew. The drive took about an hour, through winding roads and empty fields. Eventually, I reached this secluded area with a dirt path leading into what looked like an old farmhouse surrounded by trees. The house looked abandoned, windows boarded, roof half collapsed. My gut told me to turn back, but another part of me, the part that still needed answers, pushed me forward. I parked the truck and got out. The place was quiet except for the sound of birds and wind brushing through the tall grass. As I walked closer, I noticed something strange. There was a brand new padlock on the shed next to the house. It didn't match the rest of the place. The shed looked freshly painted too, unlike the crumbling house beside it. My heart started racing. I went back to the truck, rummaged through the glove compartment, and found Dad's old set of shop keys. It was a long shot, but when I tried one of them on the lock, it clicked. The door swung open, and what I saw inside left me frozen. Inside the shed was another car. Not just any car, but a pristine 1967 Shelby Mustang GT 500. Fully restored. Covered with a dust sheet, but gleaming underneath. My dad's dream car. The one he used to talk about when I was a kid, saying, "One day I'll have one of these." I stepped closer, my hands trembling. There was a note on the hood, written in his handwriting. "Ethan, if you're reading this, then you finally decided to trust me. This car isn't just a gift. It's my apology. I know I was hard on you, and I know you thought I didn't believe in you. But I did. I just didn't know how to show it. I left the shop to Tyler because that's what he needed to survive. But you have what it takes to build your own path. You always did. Inside the glove box, you'll find what you need to start fresh. Don't waste it." Dad. My hands were shaking as I opened the glove box. Inside was an envelope, thick, sealed, with my name on it. I tore it open. Inside was a letter and a certified check. I sat there in silence, staring at the letter, feeling tears streaming down my face. All this time, I thought he didn't care. That I was the disappointment. But the truth was, he'd been planning this for years, hiding it in plain sight. The truck, the GPS, the secret location. It was all a test, or maybe just his way of making sure I still had that spark of curiosity he always saw in me. I drove the Mustang home that night, following the same roads I took to get there. But everything felt different. The stars seemed brighter. The air felt lighter. I couldn't stop thinking about how Dad must have smiled knowing one day I'd find this. That maybe, in his own quiet way, he wanted to tell me he loved me. When I told Tyler about it, he was stunned. At first, I thought he'd be angry, but he wasn't. He just looked down and said, "Dad always said you'd figure things out." I guess he was right. That moment felt like something heavy had lifted off both of us. We didn't talk much more, but somehow, the silence between us didn't feel bitter anymore. A few weeks later, I sold the check for a smaller sum, just enough to start my own business. Not an auto shop like Dad's, but a small mobile garage startup that used tech and on-site diagnostics. Something new. Something that felt like me. I named it Redline Restorations. The first car I restored under that business? Dad's Mustang. Every time I drive it now, I feel like he's riding with me. The man who seemed so distant left me the biggest gift of all. Not the money, not the car, but the understanding that love doesn't always look the way we expect. Sometimes it hides under layers of rust, waiting for us to look closer. Months later, I went through the truck again, checking for anything else he might have left. Under the passenger seat, I found a tiny flash drive taped to the bottom. My heart started racing again. I plugged it into my laptop, and there was a single video file titled, "For Ethan." In the video, Dad looked frail, lying in a hospital bed. His voice was weak but steady. "Hey kid," he said, smiling softly. "If you're watching this, you found the car. I knew you would. You always had that stubborn streak, just like me. I know I wasn't the best at saying it, but I was proud of you every damn day. I didn't want to make things easy for you because I knew you'd find your own way, even if it took a while. This isn't about the money or the car. It's about trust. I trust you to take what I built and make it your own. You've got my hands and your mother's heart. That's a good mix. Don't lose it." The video ended there. I must have sat for an hour just crying, replaying,